Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. My name is Ms.Tehseen Mistry and I am an assistant teacher in Anjuman-e-Islam's A.A.K English Secondary School. Today we are going to discuss the same topic that we started last week, that is figure of speeches. In the last video we saw the initial first 5 very simple figure of speeches. Today we will continue with the same topic, moving to higher order figure of speeches. But before we continue with our topic, let us just revise the definition of a figure of speech. So in the video that we did last time, we said that figure of speech are actually poetic devices which we use mostly in our poems and at times in our prose lessons in order to enhance the meaning of our topic. So that is what we discussed in our last video, and today we are going to continue with the next 5 a bit higher order figure of speech. So let us get started. The figure of speech that we are going to discuss today, the very first figure of speech that we will be discussing today, is personification. So what is personification? Personification is when an inanimate object, inanimate means a non-living object, or an abstract idea are spoken of as having life and intelligence. It means that when you are talking about a non-living object or any idea or concept as if they have life or as if they have some human characteristics, then the figure of speech is personification. So let us understand the definition of personification with the help of 2 simple examples. The first example is, the slices of bread jumped out of the toaster suddenly, scaring me. This is the first example. And the second example is, the flame of the candle danced in the dark. So these are the 2 examples, and we will understand the definition of personification with respect to these 2 sentences. So considering the first sentence, the slices of bread jumped out of the toaster suddenly, scaring me. In this sentence, the slices of bread are given the human quality of jumping. If we relate this explanation with our definition over here, we can say that slices of bread are non-living objects and jumping is a human action. It is a human action. So, since in this sentence we are saying that the non-living object, that is slices of bread, are jumping, which is a human action, then the figure of speech here is personification. Again, when we look at the second example, the flame of the candle danced in the dark. In this sentence, the flame of the candle, which is actually a non-living object, is given the human quality or the human action of dancing. So here again, the second example here is personification. So remember students, whenever we talk of a non-living object or any abstract idea as if they have some human characteristics, then the sentence is personification. Moving to the second figure of speech for today, it is hyperbole. So what is hyperbole? In hyperbole, a sentence, an entire sentence or just a term of that particular sentence is exaggerated. Exaggerated means it is magnified or its effect is increased. So when you have a sentence or when you have a term, and if the meaning of that sentence or of that term is magnified, is increased for poetic effect, then that sentence is called hyperbole. So let us look at the examples. The first example here is, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. The second example is, he is as thin as a toothpick. So, in the first example here, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. In this sentence, the idea of eating is exaggerated. That is, we know that nobody, no matter however hungry you are, you cannot eat an entire horse at one time. So here actually the idea of eating has been magnified. Its effect has been increased. And why is it done? Only for making the sentence more effective. So here this sentence is hyperbole. Similarly, the second sentence, he is as thin as a toothpick. Here in this sentence, the notion of being thin, the concept of being thin has been exaggerated. We know how tiny and thin a toothpick is. Nobody, no person can be as thin as a toothpick. But here in this sentence, only to make the sentence more effective, the idea of being thin has been exaggerated. Its effect has been increased. So again, our second sentence is also an example of hyperbole. The next figure of speech is called onomatopoeia. It is called onomatopoeia. In this, words are used to imitate the sounds which are associated with the objects or actions that they refer to. It means that we use words in order to describe the sounds that an object creates. Let's see the example. The first example is, the birds are chirping merrily. The second example is, phones ringing, answer it. Now the first sentence, the birds are chirping merrily. In this sentence, the word chirping actually indicates the sound which is made by birds. So since we are talking about the noun and we are also associating the sound which the noun creates in the same sentence, thus we can say that this sentence is an example of onomatopoeia. Looking at the second example, phones ringing, answer it. In this sentence, again the sound ringing actually indicates the sound which is produced by a telephone. So again in the sentence we have the noun and we also have the sound associated with that noun. So this sentence is also an example of onomatopoeia. So when we talk about onomatopoeia, we only have to remember that it focuses on the sounds which are associated or which are created by different objects. The next figure of speech is oxymoron. In this, there are two opposite terms or two opposite ideas which appear side by side in the same sentence. It means you will have a pair of opposite words. The pair will be used together one after the other in the same sentence. Let us see this with the help of example. The first example is, this painting is pretty ugly. The second example is, you look clearly confused. Now in the first example, this painting is pretty ugly. We have two opposite words, or we can say we have one pair of opposite words. pretty and ugly. Both these words are used in the same sentence and they are used immediately one after the other. So, this sentence is an example of oxymoron. Looking at the second example, you look clearly confused. Again, in this sentence, we have one pair of opposite words, clearly and confused. Now, since this pair is used in the same sentence and both the words of the pair, they appear one after the other in the sentence, we say that the sentence is an example of oxymoron. So when we talk about oxymoron, we have to remember that in oxymoron there are two opposite terms, or we can say there is a pair of opposite words which are used in the same sentence and both the words will appear in the sentence side by side or immediately one after the other. Coming to the last figure of speech for today, it is tautology. In tautology, two different words having the same meaning are used in the same sentence. So we will have two different words. Both the words will have the same meaning and they will be used in the same sentence. So we have the two examples here in front of us. The first example is, he is a big, huge man. And the second example is, there is a lot of frozen ice on the road. Now in the first example, the words big and the word huge, they mean the same. So since we are using two different words which have the same meaning in the same sentence, so we can say that our first example is actually tautology. Similarly, the second sentence, there is a lot of frozen ice on the road. In this sentence, the words frozen and the word ice, they actually refer to the same concept. Now, since both these words refer to the same concept and since they are used in the same sentence, we can say that the second sentence is also an example of tautology. So students, today we have discussed 5 more figure of speeches which belong to a higher order. We spoke about personification, we spoke about onomatopoeia, hyperbole, tautology and oxymoron. So with this we finish our topic for today, that is figure of speeches. So thank you very much all of you and have a wonderful day ahead.